Hello and welcome to the Womb Centered Healing Podcast. I have Emmi here with me today. Thank you so much for joining me, Emmi. Emmi and I have been collaborating and sharing our womb centered healing services with each other for several years now. And Emmi's one of the few online collaborators that I've actually met in person and spent a significant amount of time with, as we got to be together during the Fountain of Life. What was that? Womb Awakening teacher
9
training.
months.
We were
Yes.
during that was an online, but then we were in the 9-month apprenticeship was online, and then we did the 10-day teacher training in person together in Exmoor in England last summer.
That's right.
Which was delightful. Just a really beautiful time to be together. And so then our friendship has just grown since then. So thank you so much for joining me. And I'm really excited to have you share with us about some work that you're really focusing in on, which is really all my work is about this too. And it's something we're super passionate about, of really coming into our feminine power and feminine ways of being and feminine ways of evolution of the human species. And so I would love for you to share a little bit more about that, and then I'm going to have some things to share too, I'm sure.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Sama. Thanks so much for having me on this podcast again. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, so the topic that we're focusing on today is very much, as you said, about stepping into one's feminine power. And I call this one's sacred feminine power, because it really is our essence. It is our birthright, and it is the foundation of our power as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it is something that I have on my personal path in my own journey, initially very much struggled with. And now, as time has gone by, very consciously and really quite systematically, and at the same time very organically and often in miraculous ways as well, really started to learn and connect with and align with and learning about the really immense power that I, as a woman, and all other women also hold within their bodies, within their womb spaces, and understanding that this power is available to us all, no matter what our personal circumstances are, and learning to connect with this power in a way that is supportive and healing, not just to myself, but to my lineage, to my ancestors, and to the collective experience of women as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And so could you, I have my own way that I would do this, and I'll probably pipe in about it too, but I would love for you to describe, perhaps through your own experience, what that means, our feminine power, and how you're distinguishing that, say, from masculine power.
Sure, absolutely. Well, for me, the feminine power is very much about qualities that relate to nurturing and nourishing, cooperation and collaboration. Very much those motherly energies of caring and supporting each other and oneself. And really those kinds of energies that are all about being creative and seeing, being rather than doing something all the time. And whereas the more masculine energies tend to be more about constant action, wanting to get results, looking for profit alone, and often going for things alone, individually, and looking for that individual impact and individual power and gain. Mm-hmm. And that is not to say that all men are like this or all women are a certain way, but it's about the fact that we all have feminine and masculine energies within ourselves.
Mhm.
And for a very, very long time, in the societies and cultures that we live in, it is the masculine energies that have been dominant. And many of us women have had to adjust to that in order to thrive within our careers or within our lives, or in some cases, we've had to adjust to that in order to survive,
Mhm.
in order to be able to make it from one day to the other.
Mhm.
And there is definitely a shift happening globally on our planet at the moment, where
Mhm.
these dominant masculine energies are being questioned and are being, to a large extent, already replaced by an understanding of the need for these more feminine energies
Mhm.
that are so needed for the kind of large scale healing that our planet and humankind as a whole really truly needs right now, for us
Mhm.
to be able to not just to evolve to the next stage of humanity, but literally to survive on this planet that is being ravaged and raped and destroyed at so many levels at the
Mhm.
moment.
Mhm. Yeah, and I just want to clarify some of these distinctions that you're making, because I don't feel that masculine energies are intrinsically dominating.
Mm.
Okay, what we see is a system of
Yes.
patriarchy that puts masculinity and maleness in a domination-based role
Yes.
over everything feminine, and
Mm-hmm.
actually is quite violating to the masculine body, to the male body, and quite violent towards men and dominating towards
Sure.
men, because there's always the one at the top of the heap that has
Mm-hmm.
power over all the others, and in the hierarchical power over system of,
Mm.
of
Sure.
patriarchy, where there's a king or the guy at the top of the heap, right, who has power over all the other guys, and the lower down in the heap you go, the more likely those men are, in order to seek any power over anyone else, because they've been
Mm.
stripped of their own intrinsic power,
Sure. Absolutely.
they can only have power over someone of a less powerful race, or someone of a deemed less powerful in gender, so feminine gender. And that's why so much violence and in homophobia and different genders is there, because these men that are so locked into this hierarchical power structure, where in order to have any power at all, they have to find someone to take power from and have
Mm.
power over, then they've got to
Sure.
find someone to do that with. And it can be very
Mm-hmm.
violent, because the violence against them of stripping them of any power, and I feel that's related to circumcision. All right, so there's my little thing about masculinity and how it
Mm.
has become this, because intrinsically masculine energy is just part of the balance of life.
Sure.
and,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
there's a harmonious balance in life between masculine and feminine energy. For example, if you look at a river, the banks of the river, the stones, the land, and how it holds the flow of the river, I consider to be the masculine energy. And healthy
Mm.
masculine energy can be very much a non-dominating, right? Intrinsically
Sure.
powerful
Sure.
masculine energy can be like those stones and those banks of that river that actually hold the flow of that feminine water that will just spread out and be wherever it is and flow wherever it is, that give it power. So the masculine energy can give the feminine energy power by holding it and shaping it and giving it a direction, right, when it's
Mm.
working in harmony.
Sure.
But
Absolutely. And
when
I think the
we
challenge is,
Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead, say.
yeah, I think the challenge is that for thousands of years, there's been a very systematic way of using that male power to dominate, as you said, over women, but also many, many other population groups
Yeah.
who have come to be known as the vulnerable groups. And it goes beyond gender, and it goes beyond race as well. But whether it's related to circumcision or not, and I also think that there is a lot behind that statement, a lot of truth behind that statement as well. I think there's a huge theme around men needing to take the power away from women because women are so powerful, and because men have been scared of this power for a very long time. I mean, if we look at the origins of humankind, in the very early days, it was we very much lived in accordance to goddess-based cultures, goddess-based traditions, where both men and women understood the creative and nourishing and reproductive power of the woman. And there was very much that harmony between men and the women, and that beautiful description of the river where the banks and the stones of the masculine energy were supporting the feminine energy. And that's actually where the name of my brand, so to speak, comes from, Feminine Revered, because it was in those times that there was much more balance, and the feminine was revered for her powers to create life and nurture life and nourish life. And men understood that and were supportive of that in a very different way from what is happening now, at least on a large scale.
And I feel that part of the reason why that balance was disrupted was perhaps, and this is a theory, and it's supported by various people that have reflected on this and written about it, is that there was a big environmental cataclysm at a certain point in our early development as a species, which created a collective trauma response. And in men, it created this, and many women have too, it created this rift between the feminine ways of thinking and being in the feminine brain and the logical thinking brain, and created a need for more of that logical thinking, of planning ahead, of strategizing, of creating in that linear logical way in order to survive. So initially, that emphasis that groups of men jumping into this way of doing things and sort of having stronger banks of the river was a trauma response that was adaptive to what was going on. And in that process, there was a learning that that feminine power from women could be harnessed or harvested or utilized when men were frightened that they weren't going to be able to support the survival of themselves and their loved ones. They started to figure out how to harness the feminine power, but through domination as a trauma response, and partly because of the fear, because the powers of nature perhaps were considered feminine. And we still call it Mother Earth or Mother Nature, right? And so there may have been this sense of betrayal, or gosh, I can't trust this anymore. I need to control this uncontrollable power of nature, as a collective trauma response after an environmental cataclysm that changed everything. And, a lot of people died, and all of that changed the way the world spun. Even, one theory is that there were a huge meteor that hit around the Gulf of Mexico, which there's geological evidence of, which tilted the axis of the planet. Used to rotate parallel to the sun so that the seasons stayed the same around the entire planet. And then after the meteor hit, it tilted it. And then that created seasons, so there wasn't food year round anymore. So then there was the need to strategize and to plan ahead and to have some kind of a linear thinking. And so there, you know, there's all kinds of theories about this, but this is the main one that's like, why do we keep looping these same trauma patterns of patriarchy? It's so obvious that it's a trauma pattern. Well, it's a collective trauma pattern, perhaps. And what kind of collective trauma could be so big to knock us out of this harmonious balance between masculinity and femininity into this domination approach and energy harvesting and lack of reverence for, you know, and that's the only theory I've seen that kind of puts all those pieces together. But what's been happening over the centuries and millennia is that there are resurgences of groups and peoples and even whole countries or cultures that are wanting to return to that harmonious balance, that have found some kind of inspiration for that in some way. And you can look throughout history and see that, you know, there's various cultures all over the world will have a resurgence of reverence for the feminine and all those qualities that you talked about. And then, but then it will be quickly dominated again, because as we know in trauma recovery, oftentimes our trauma loops, we hold on to them ever so dearly. And we repeat them ever so fiercely over and over again, because we're coping with, you know, things that are hard to feel and hard to heal. And so
yeah, it's a survival mechanism. That's what it is, that trauma response.
Yeah. And so we feel that our survival depends on it. And if you see people who are really clinging to that domination masculinity, domination-based masculinity, it's like their survival depends on it, and they're willing to do whatever it takes, lie, cheat, steal, kill, to maintain that.
Yeah,
and that's a trauma response. That's a trauma response.
And very often that's a subconscious trauma response where we just simply act out in certain ways without really even understanding why our bodies are wired to do something like that.
Yeah. And it's an addiction too, because that inner power has been somehow disconnected, and the need to take power for others. This is my theory and my feeling of it too, that becomes an addiction. That there's, because if you don't continue taking power from others and you have no inner connection to any inner power at all,
who will you be?
Who will you be? You know, and I've been talking about this for a while, that, as you know, like you were saying, there's this global resurgence of and need for and calling for everyone waking back up to this harmonious possibility of partnership between masculine and feminine, right? And as more and more are waking up to that, it's almost like we're being prepared to hold those that are so severely addicted to the domination model that it will just be devastating for them. They will not let it go. But I feel that at some point, because this uprising of the feminine masculine balance is really arising from within, within those who are connecting to our inner sources of power and to the planetary sources of power, and we're receiving, and this goes into a topic I think you wanted to share about, is this channeling from our spirit guides, from Mother Earth. I often feel it's just this direct transmission of what I need to do, rising up through my feet, through my womb, directly to my brain, through my fingers, typing it into the computer, or doing it in the garden, or whatever it is that I'm doing, saying to my clients, talking on my podcast, whatever it is, it's this direct transmission from Mother Earth. And that is, we're being prepared to hold when she like zaps the awareness and the awakening into the people that are clinging so tightly to their coping mechanism. And it's just like anyone recovering from any trauma, it can be devastating to awaken to what's really going on. It makes me think of the author of the song Amazing Grace. Have you ever heard that story?
Yeah, sure.
Where he was a captain of a slave ship, I believe. And he woke up in the middle. He was awoken in the middle of a slave run across the ocean, bringing a ship full of slaves, I think, to the United States. I'm not exactly sure of the exact details. It may have been to the Caribbean or some other place. And he woke up in the middle of the run and turned the ship around because he realized what he was doing, and he didn't want to do it anymore. And that's the origin of the lyrics to that song, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. He realized that what a wretched person he had been. I once was blind, lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. But before then, he wasn't calling himself a wretch. He wasn't calling himself blind. He wasn't calling himself lost. He knew what he was doing, and he was doing fine. And he was probably gonna defend what he was doing to the teeth.
For sure.
And I feel like that kind of awakening was devastating for him. He turned around, he took those slaves back. I think he became a monk. Or something, he just his whole life changed. And that kind of awakening is possible, and that's what gives me hope. And you got me going on this topic, Emmi. I know I'm supposed to be interviewing you, but boy, this is a big topic for both of us, I think. So I would love to hear what you feel about this channeling of this guidance and information about this feminine power awakening.
Yeah. Well, for me, working with and through my spirit guides and my ancestors has become increasingly important as I've been evolving on my journey as a healer, as an energy medicine practitioner, as a womb awakening practitioner and teacher. And what's been coming through for me very, very strongly for the past, I would say 6 to 7 months, is Mother Mary's guidance. And it's quite intriguing because when I was younger, in my a teenager or so, I started to question everything around systematic religions. And I threw away all notions that I had learned about Christianity, especially. I threw away the notion of God. I threw away the notion of angels. I threw away anything to do with Jesus Christ and so on. It just all went out the window. And then a few years back, suddenly, guides such as Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene started appearing into my meditations, started appearing almost out of nowhere when I was reflecting and thinking, and starting to give me guidance and just showing me the way, holding my hand in many ways. But I always had a little bit of a resistance to Mother Mary. And I'm not 100% sure why that was, but I'm guessing it had many, many different layers to it. Number one, not necessarily wanting to work with the so-called motherly energies that Mother Mary very obviously holds and possesses and vibrates with as well. So the energies of nurturing and compassion and really the very, very typically motherly energies that are out there in the world. But also the notion of her being known as Virgin Mary. And I always felt a very strong disconnection from that concept. But then also slowly starting to understand when she started coming through to me months ago now, that it is exactly those motherly energies that we're needing right now, that nurturance, that compassion, that support, that co-creation and so on, combined with that fierce energy of a mother, the warrior mother who's not just in a union with someone, but is also fiercely independent and who is very protective of her own as well. And that term own could relate not just to her children, but to the planet as a whole, or the animals as a whole. And then, of course, learning more about the concept behind the term virgin and the original meaning behind that word, and understanding that it's actually got nothing to do with chastity or restraining from sex, but it originally meant a woman unto her, whole unto herself. So again, an independent woman, a woman who's not afraid to be assertive, a woman who is in many ways married to herself because she appreciates herself and respects herself, and who sees sexuality as something sacred, as something that is hugely empowering and hugely beneficial to both herself and to her partner, whoever that partner may be.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, ever since I really had kind of like these aha moments and these clicks around what Mother Mary truly stands for. And of course, the fact that although she was in a relationship, she probably had to do a lot of things by herself as well, in a very independent way, and, you know, make do with whatever she was presented with in those times. So yes, so she has been coming through very, very strongly. And I have been getting lots of messages and lots of insights through her that I am now working with myself, trying to embody and integrate into my own life, but then also being called to take that to a wider audience as well, and supporting others in embodying her message as well. And what it essentially for me boils down to is this very strong need to step into one's sacred feminine power and all aspects of that power as well.
Beautiful. And so with these inspirations, it sounds so rich. I'm like, I want to jump right in there with you and start to listen to some of the messages that Mother Mary is bringing for you in this description. And boy, I have some stories of things I've discovered about the origins of some of those stories of the Virgin Mary and her her Son of God named Christ. Like, I'll just say one little one is that apparently back in those times, the priests would deflower young girls using some say, they at least, we don't know what object they actually used to deflower them. I have a feeling I know what object they used to deflower them, but they had symbolic objects as well. But they used a lubrication, a sacred oil called Christos. And so when these young girls would become pregnant, they were considered to be, the child was considered to be a son or daughter of God.
Right.
And they were often called Christos or Christ after this sacred ointment that was used in the deflowering process. Now, you know, I can just imagine that there was this God lingam, symbolic object lingam that the priests were supposed to use, but you know they weren't using that. You and I both know, especially if the girl was getting pregnant, right?
Sure.
And so this was a common thing, and it just so happened that our Mother Mary, with, you know, who birthed Jesus Christ, Christos, he just was a particularly special one of these people that were born out of this tradition. And so then the story carries on from there. But that many young virgins were considered to be the mothers of the Son of God or the daughter of God because of this practice. So anyway, we can go on and on about all that, but I really want to hear about your beautiful offering that's going to be starting just on Monday. Is that right?
Yeah,
on the 28th,
that's right. Yeah,
coming up here, with this whole process that you're going to be sharing your messages from Mother Mary and other guides and ancestors about this process of embodying our feminine power. Can you share more about that?
Sure, absolutely. So I've been very much guided to do a 5-day free online activation
Mhm.
where I will be live every single day of those 5 days on
Mhm.
Facebook,
Mhm.
um, and providing or guiding an activation.
Mhm.
So an energy activation that is related to stepping into one's sacred feminine power.
Mhm.
And the activations are not going to be very long, just maybe 10 to 15 minutes a day.
Mhm.
And it is a chance for women who wish to join this to really, at a very deep cellular level, start activating energetically parts of themselves that are now ready to rise, that are
Mm.
ready to shift and transform, and that are very much a part of their own empowerment process
Mm.
that will connect them to their own sacred feminine power.
Mm. Beautiful. So you're going to be offering these live transmissions to support this process in those participating. And so will you be supporting participants to connect directly with Mother Mary or Mary Magdalene or other spirit guides like that, to guide them on their process as well?
Absolutely. I don't want to say too much about it at this stage, but yes,
Oh.
absolutely. Whilst the whole process is very much guided and, I would say, embedded in the energy of Mother Mary,
Mhm.
there are also other guides that are going to be coming through. And
Mhm.
every single day with the activation, it is going to be like a guided journey
Mhm.
that will include a portion that is simply just to listen and to take in,
Mhm.
and then a portion that is about all the listeners to actually do some energy work themselves
Mhm.
that is related to the specific theme of each day.
Mhm. Now, I know that uh, you utilize a number of different energy healing modalities. Um,
Hmm.
will you be sharing about those in the self-practice portion of these lives? These live broadcasts? Will you be instructing people how to do particular self-healing energy practices?
Um, I'm not going to go too much into the details of the various methods that I use with the activation itself. Who knows what's going to come afterwards?
Uh-huh.
But with the 5 day activation, it's very much about those guided journeys. So I
Okay.
will take people on these short guided journeys that
Okay.
will allow them to really to activate the energies
Okay.
of the guide who's coming through, and then also do some energy processes within the guided journeys or meditations
Okay.
that will then also bring in that healing aspect at a deeper level as well.
Okay, so the modality it sounds like you'll be focusing on is the journeying, the guided
Yes,
visualization, meditation, and that style, that approach to energy healing. I just
yes,
was wondering because I'm
absolutely.
familiar with some of the ways that you enhance that with other practices, but it sounds like you're going to just be zeroing in on that. And then if people want to learn more about how to deepen that and enhance that, then they can reach out to you further for more support. Wonderful.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, and so the reason I know so much about this, and I'll announce for everyone to know, is that Emmi and I are going to be, Emmi is one of the collaborators and guest instructors in the Biomystical Womb 9-month apprenticeship. And she'll be offering, we're structuring how she's going to be coming in, but it's very likely going to be um, demonstration sessions with me. I love Emmi's work. And so
Mhm.
um, I love receiving your work, Emmi. And so I'm really delighted that we came up with that structure that people can go along with me on the journey that Emmi will hold space for and learn some of these healing modalities within the 9-moon apprenticeship. So that's one way to go deeper from after the feminine activation. So it's perfect timing that we're going to do this feminine power activation. And then on the 31st, which I think, the 28th to the 31st, we're going to be right in the middle of the feminine power activations when the apprenticeship starts. So we're really, it's like, it's
Yep.
happening. It is happening all right now. This is a powerful time. Okay, so
Mm.
thank you so much, Emmi. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience now about this feminine activation or anything else?
Really, just to mention that it's a beautiful opportunity to go a little bit deeper in one's own personal practice and connection with the divine feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And importantly, even if you're not able to be there for the live activations, for the live guided journeys, you can always listen to them afterwards.
Okay.
So you don't actually have to be there exactly at the same time as I am live on Facebook. And the energy of the activations will, or the vibration of the energy will reach you, even if you just simply sign up and you don't even listen to all of the activations, because we're all connected. It's all about energy. It's the vibration and the message behind that vibration that really truly counts.
Oh, and you know that is so real. I've already had one of the people who signed up for the 9-month apprenticeship already. She was calling me up yesterday saying, "Has it started already? Have I missed anything?"
Yeah.
Because I'm feeling some stuff happening, and she was all concerned that she'd missed something, that's why something. I'm like, no, you just signed up, and I'm over here preparing the materials ahead of time, doing my out of time and space magic where I'm talking to you in the future and you're feeling it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not doing live broadcasts, I'm pre-recording a lot of stuff, so I'm talking to people, the participants who've signed up, I'm talking to their future selves, right? And then they're feeling it back now, they're feeling it now. So
that's the beauty and power of this energy work. It is just, it's beautiful.
And the feminine power. I mean, how many of us have ever been a kid doing something we thought we might get away with, and then we realize our mother already knows.
Yes.
What we did. And she wasn't there. She didn't see it. Nobody told her, but she already knows.
Yeah. And I have that with my kids as well. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you. Such a delight as always to connect with you, Emmi. You really brighten my day, and just thank you so much for your presence and your support and bringing this beautiful connection, this divine mother feminine activation. So we will, can you tell, is there a simple link that people can go to that is easy to describe here for people to go sign up for this activation?
It isn't actually a very simple link. I would need to maybe send that out. So I'm not sure if we could maybe post it in the comments below the broadcast, and then people will be able to sign up from there.
Yes, we can do that. We'll put it in the description in both the YouTube and the audio podcast options. So we'll put it in the description. And of course, if you can't find it, have a hard time finding it, you can reach out to me and I'll be happy to direct you to where you can access Emmi's feminine power activation. What's the name of the program, the 5-day program anyway? Can you tell us the name?
It's a 5-day online journey. Step into your sacred feminine power.
Step into your sacred feminine power. All right.
Yeah.
So reach out to me at wombcenteredhealing.com if you aren't able to find the link in the description, and I'd be happy to forward that information to you. And also be happy to share with you about the Biomystical Womb 9-moon apprenticeship coming up as well. So that's all for now, folks. Until next time.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.